Hello, everybody. This is episode number 21. I want to talk to you about the 5 lessons I've learned through this pandemic. I know it's far from over, but there's lessons to be learned, and let's kind of take a look at it. And because there's so many things we can do to help you grow yourself, personally and professionally. So let's get right to it. Hey there, it's Lawrence Tam here. This is going to be a new setup. I don't know if you like this or not. Usually my mic's not in here. And I'd love to kind of let you find out, for those of you who've been watching the show, I'd love to know if you like this particular setup. If not, let me know, because it's just something that I'm just trying out. Like I said, I'm Lawrence Tam, your chiro coach. This show is all about helping you grow your practice to become more profitable and more freedom, not by adding stuff, but to helping you transform and getting out of your way to getting you to become more successful. Because I feel one of the major things that most people realize or don't realize is that it's not about adding more systems into your practice that makes you successful. I find that what makes people successful is actually the person you become. So that was some of the things we're going to talk about today. Because let's face the facts, right? The facts of the matter is that we're in the middle of a world pandemic, as we're all aware. And the challenges, of course, is that it's very difficult for kind of to navigate through this, and everybody's dealing with this very differently. And I wanted to make sure we kind of have a conversation around what are some of the lessons that can be learned, because we might as well learn it, because it's been 5 months since the beginning of this crisis, and I believe that it's going to continue for a lot more longer. So we can do something about certain things, and there's certain things we can't control. So those are some of the discussions I want to have around this, because here's the thing I've been looking at. I've been looking at a lot of my clients. I'm kind of comparing my clients and the Nitro clients, and where, for those of you who don't know, I coach clients from all around the world, chiropractors that are here in Australia, also in the United Kingdom and Europe, and also in the United States. So I have a very broad range of clients and different very types of clients and chiropractic practices. But what's really interesting is how they are how everybody's responded differently, and also because the variables, right? The United States and in the UK and Europe shut down completely, whereas Australia, we had verges of shutdown, came close to shutdown, but never really fully shut down, unlike the US and the European clients. So there are people who have been lucky, and there are people who have been a little bit unlucky, of course, but there are certain lessons that there are commonalities amongst all of them. And what I found was that what was surprising, when I looked through some of the data, we're still collecting data, I'm still talking to my clients about these in terms of stats, but here's the interesting fact, right? The interesting fact is this. Number one is that greater than 78% of them, of my clients, have been doing better in June and July month, as we're looking through the stats, than they were pre-pandemic, right? That was surprising to me, because when it first hit, I just thought, oh my God, like it was all hands on deck. It was like trying to make sure everybody survives, and then learning how do we get out of this, and how do we thrive? And I was thinking, like, how do we thrive like a year later, not necessarily within like 3-4 months. And what was surprising to me, and this is why I think it's really important to kind of learn these lessons, is that 78% of them are thriving. And the only reason why the other people, the other 20% are not thriving, is because they had to completely shut down for like 6+ weeks, like literally shut down with no patients to be seen. And so they're just taking a little longer. There's a bit of lag time. And also, too, there are also clients of mine who basically complete their practice model and how they're doing things. So therefore, that's why I kind of skewed that data there. But so what you should take away from this is that not only they increase their revenue, they increase their patient visits, obviously their profit, but 20% of them or so are working less hours. Like, they're working less hours, which is incredible to kind of see, which is obviously better for them. They're more confident and more happier. Their mindsets are incredible and more resilient. Of course, there's always going to be mindset issues that we need to deal with, but their teams have greater synergy, they have greater systems, and they're providing greater services for their patients and better connection with them. So in addition to that is that they also have a greater sense of purpose and greater sense of passion. So what are the lessons that we learned? Well, I think that when I look at all of them, all right, comparatively, and I go, what's the commonality? Why did these guys succeed? And comparative to what's actually happening in our profession worldwide. And here's the commonality. I narrowed it down to 5. I just want to have a discussion around it. I don't have any necessary notes to prepare, but I think it's really important for us to kind of discuss this. So what I found is this. Number 1 is I'm going to call it the reaction awareness. The reaction awareness is that right now in Melbourne and Victoria, they're in the lockdown in the second week. And so I kind of looked this and reminded me of how people reacted during the first lockdown. The reality is this, is that a lot of my clients, of course, we all go into this panic stage. We go through this state of anxiety. We go to a state of anger. And then we're going to have to move towards adaptability. And what I mean by that is that the quicker, what I realize is the quicker people move from anxiety to anger to adaptability, all of a sudden it changes the context and how fast they were able to move. Because as soon as you start to realize what I realized with my clients, the lesson here is that it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be anxious about what the situation is. But what's really important here is to kind of recognize, how can we move past this? How can we focus on things that you can change, that you actually have control over? When you start to focus on things you have no control over, which is like the political situations or whether they're going to have a lockdown or not, unless you sit in those board members or you actually have direct influence to the politicians, talking about it, ranting about it, really doesn't really help you or your constituents, which are your patients. And so what I find is that the commonalities I found, the chiropractors actually, my clients actually took the attitude of making sure, like, you know what, we're going to focus on things we can change. And what we can change is help those who need our help, which is our patients, and they can directly go and connect with them. And so here's the fundamental thing, though, I want you to ask yourself. Maybe just ask yourself, why are you reacting the way you are reacting, whatever the reaction is, because I think it's important to kind of discuss this. Because here's the thing: if you are in, say, Victoria, and you're in the middle of lockdown, and the fear pops up, and it's okay to have the fear. I had that fear as well myself, and I would just ask yourself, is like, why am I fearful? Like, what is the fear? What am I really fearful about? Because the answer to that gives you an indication of what changes you could potentially make. Because, for example, if you are in a practice or you're a chiropractor right now and you're thinking, whoa, wait a second, I'm fearful that I'm going to lose my business, or I'm fearful that I might not be able to come out of this, or I'm fearful that it's going to be very hard to kind of get these patients back, then maybe this should give you an indication that possibly that you didn't actually have a strong foundation in terms of practice before the pandemic. And so, now, I'm not saying that's a right, bad, or good thing, but it should be an indicator to you to go, okay, crap, if we come out of this, and you will, what do we need to do to establish that solid foundation that you need to require so you never have to feel this way again? Like, despite you actually have to close down for 6 weeks or 2 months or something. Because really, when you dive deeper into the fear, the awareness of that fear really should give you some indication of the changes that you possibly should be making or could be making in the next 4-6 months or even a year to 2 years. Because when you can establish, like, the people who didn't panic through this process in any business is that people with abundant of cash flow, really strong practices. I'm going to talk about that practice depth later in the indicator. And the reality is that they didn't have to worry because they know they can come back. But that's a strong foundation that they took years to develop. So maybe if you're fearful at the moment, this will be a good indication to go, oh, wait a second, maybe that's what I need to do to kind of aim for, and how do I do that? Now, I'm not suggesting you can do that in a month or 2 months or 6 weeks. What I'm suggesting is that that's something maybe we should to look upon. Instead of like worrying about what would typically, when everything was normal, is that we kind of go after new patients or, improving systems. Maybe what we need to do is focus on what kind of practice am I trying to build in the next 1 year or 5 years. Because if you don't know what you're building, you were just kind of doing, we're just kind of doing little things here and there, but never really improving. So I think that's really important. Second thing is what I kind of alluded to, which is comfort is the enemy of growth. This is one of the lessons I've learned. Comfort is the enemy of growth, because what happens is that when we're comfortable, when there was no pandemic, growing a practice was just like a nice to have. It's a luxury that we could have, but it wasn't a necessary need for a lot of people. And so therefore, what we get hung up on is usually growing the practice or growing our business was like, yeah, it'd be nice to have, but you weren't willing to do the work. But all of a sudden, when a pandemic hit, all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wait a second, we need to do this, because if we don't, this could go down a really bad rabbit hole. And when that happened, all of a sudden, people moved into action that they never took action, me included. I took action and my clients took action that they never thought possible. Or maybe they they knew they could possible, but they didn't do the things that was necessary to push that into an action or as quickly as they could. So you start to remove these limitations within ourselves to actually act as if you do need to grow. So comfort, right, in itself is a bad thing, unless you just want to cruise, right? But if you really do truly want to grow, the problem is that oftentimes we get in the way. And so what's really important is for us to kind of think about is how can we get out of the way? And so what I would kind of suggest here is to kind of get what we do is almost kind of increase our desire of wanting. So that's why the first indicator of actually knowing where we want to go is going to be really important. But the comfort level is sinking in now. For those people who are outside of Victoria, for example, are getting to a stage of like they're having their best months in June or July and July, like literally the best months. So one of our clients had the best month in July in 27 years. And so what that does is that you get to this point of like, whoa, everything's amazing. And you kind of get into this comfort stage. And this comfort stage is not necessarily helpful. And so what I'm suggesting is like what we got to think about is how do we get better? And how do we get out of comfort? Don't get stuck in comfort. And how do we elevate to that next level? And so just remind yourself that be careful of being comfortable, because you kind of stagnate and you never really push yourself. So you can push yourself if you choose to. Well, of course, that's unsustainable all the time, but it's something to kind of think about. The third thing I recognize is that who became successful and who didn't is the practice depth indicator. And what I mean by practice depth is how deep is your practice? Meaning that is your practice built upon only requiring new patients and generating? And some of our clients are really, really good. And so a lot of chiropractors are really, really good at generating new patients, and a ton of chiropractors are not. But what really proves to me, and it's anecdotal, this is my opinion, what I can see is that practice that heavily rely on new patients generation through marketing didn't survive as well or didn't cope as well initially comparatively to practices that had strong foundational practices that were built on referrals. And so why did that occur? Well, because when you build on referrals, you actually have a practice typically where patients believe in you already. And they believe in and trust in you. So they're not going anywhere. But if you're a practice that is built on heavily new patients, which is a great model, the problem with the downside of that is that those patients haven't built a solid connection or bond with you. And that could create a challenge for you to kind of grow beyond that and heavily rely on a lot of work in terms of marketing all the time. And so I believe the future of practice, the best foundation of growth for practice is the combination between those two, is have a solid foundation of heavily relying on referral patients and also have some sort of marketing, not heavily marketing, like maybe 20-30% of marketing, where those new patients are coming from there. And I think that creates that. If you want growth, that's what I would be. If you want a sustainable, functional practice, like sustainable model that's just purely on profit, then I would say highly referral based practice rather than relying on any new marketing. And so it just depends on where you're going, whether you're going for growth and scale or whether you want to kind of get to a foundation. The fourth level that I found, one of the lessons I've learned, is that people, when during a pandemic, were able to find their why and their what and who. And what I mean by that is that the practices that figured out this pushed them to figure out, like, why do I exist? And I think I would encourage you to think about this. If you're a chiropractor watching this right now, is think about, why do you exist? What is your intention for you and your patients and your practice? Why does your business exist in the first place? Who does it serve? And what do you do? Like, what kind of service do you provide that actually provides this, that actually changes the landscape of that will meet this, that will connect your why to your what? And so we all have a why. Your business has a why, which is the vision of why your business exists. But then what do you do? Is the what you do connecting to the why itself? The stronger the connection to the what and the why becomes, the better the business is going to be. And thirdly is the who. What I found in this during this pandemic period of time is that a lot of my clients actually got streamlined in terms of recognizing who their team players really are. See, the true self starts to show themselves in their team player, like meaning that the team players who are in it, who understand the vision and who wants to be part of the vision will show up. And the people who don't really believe in the vision, who are really there just to be an employee, to just want to have a job, they will show up too. And their true colors show up, and all of a sudden now you realize, I'm like, oh, wait a second. These guys are our A players, these are our team players, and these are ones who are just in it because of the money or the job itself and the security of it. And so you start to recognizing, like, who do you want to carry forward? And when you can start to recognize on the team players, on where you want to take them, and whether or not you have the right team on the right bus, heading in the right direction, that changes everything. And so I think it's really important for us to kind of look at is, the why, the what, and the who in your team. And is this the right why? Is it the right what? And is it the right who to move forward to get you to where you want to be, and what kind of practice you actually want to intend to have. The fifth thing, the last thing, is this. I remember being in practice during the last GFC, and I felt that, I thought that healthcare will crash, but in reality, it actually improved. My practice grew after the GFC, during the GFC, and after the GFC. Why? Well, I don't know. I don't have any anecdotal. I don't have any evidence of this, but anecdotally, what I find is that there's increased stress, obviously, worldwide, and then increased stress causes a lot more health issues. And people, in addition to that, you also got people who are really, because of the pandemic, are going to focus on their health. I mean, we had 5 months of this, and we're going to have many more months of this moving forward. And so the realities are what you got to start thinking about is that shouldn't we be thinking about how to improve our health and immunity? Like, shouldn't we be thinking about that would be, instead of talking about treatment all the time, what about getting the people better? Helping the people become a better version of themselves, helping them become healthier, so that even if the virus, if they actually contact themselves with the virus, they are going to be healthier and be able to deal with it a lot better. Why are we not having that conversation? If it doesn't frustrate you, then you as a chiropractor, you are a perfect leader to be in that space. Now, sure, there's certain rules where you can't talk about certain things, but reality is that we're talking about health. We're just talking about just being healthy and living healthier lives. I don't think that's against the rules. And so you just got to work around the rules to kind of think, how do we teach people to lead healthier lives? Because it's been 5 months. 5 months is a long time to get someone healthier. And we got another 6 months ahead to kind of go, how do we transform those people to get them to be healthier? That should be our goal. Because what's the worst side effect of that? Well, nothing. People just have to work a bit harder or have to eat healthier, and we will have a healthier society anyways. So what's the problem with that? And so I'm suggesting is that this is the perfect opportunity for you as a chiropractor to be a leader in healthcare by showing them how to lead healthier lives. You don't have to be a chiropractor to do that, but you actually have all the qualification needed to do that. It doesn't always have to be through chiropractic, but remember, you're a chiropractor, which means that you have skills, evidence, and also experience in many health fields to be that provider. So go out there and do that. Be that leader, stand in front, and start talking about have a healthy life. But you got to get over your fear. You got to get over the fear that, hey, in fact, that you actually have something to say. So these are the 5 lessons I've learned over the pandemic. These are things that I've just taken away from my clients and what I've seen and what I've observed. And I hope that it helps you in some way to challenge you to go, well, what do I need to do? What am I looking forward to? What kind of practice am I trying to build? And more importantly, what are some of the lessons how can I take this lesson now and actually put it towards action and actually start to move forward? Because we're not going to get back to normal in a snap of a finger. It doesn't happen that way. You have many months and years to kind of get back to wherever you need to be or where you want to go. Think of the long game rather than the short game. The long game is there for you. Many of you watching this are not close to retirement, so which means you have many years to do this. What is the goal? What is the long game? What's the long play for you? What is it that you're trying to build? And if you need help with that, I'd love to kind of have a conversation with you. Go to joinnitro.com. I help people like you grow practices by getting you becoming the person you've always wanted to be.
It's all well and good to have a successful practice, but in the grand scheme of things, I want to make an impact.
The biggest thing that it's enabled me to do is to develop better relationships with people. The reason I joined was because I was feeling a bit isolated in practice.
Now I feel like I have a tribe.
Lawrence definitely provides a really good insight from outside of my square.
You really start to find your true identity. When you're part of a group that supports you, which is what I feel Nitro does, you get some quality results.
I was caught up in the hustle side of chiropractic, so now having that freedom, still being just as busy and even more successful.
I think that we all elevate and rise together.
It really allows me to face my own fears and blockages. It's about being with like-minded people, but being about people who want the same thing, which is like this willingness to support each other and hold each other accountable at the same time.
We went from seeing an average of 140, 150 people to seeing now 250 people.
I do have the confidence to, have that voice and make those changes. And I definitely wouldn't have been able to do that without Nitro.
It's not trying to create me to be something else. It's trying to create me to be the best version of me.